Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Move Standard podcast. In this week's episode, I am really excited to share with you another case study, this time a business mentorship case study with Mr. Luke Pollock. So I worked with Luke for 4 months. This was when my mentorship was the Move mentorship. It was in beta mode, and I was looking to figure out what the exact needs are of my ideal client, someone that's looking to build a business that is actually a business rather than just trapping them in a busy job where they're accountable to everything. Their admin, their cleaning, their marketing, their sales, all on top of clinical delivery, and allow them a path towards freedom with a business which has a huge amount of impact, which they love working in, which they take fulfillment building, and they can create opportunity for themselves, for other physios, for other staff members, and truly create something that they're proud of and something special. And that's exactly the journey that I believe that Luke and I went on. We ended up working with each other for 4 months. When Luke came to work with me, he was working in a private practice and he was getting no fulfillment from that. And he was sort of bridging the gap and looking to move to another private practice whilst also sort of dipping his toe into building his own thing in an online world. But he had a social media page which he was consistent with, but it wasn't growing and it wasn't delivering his ideal clients. And over the process of 4 months, well, I'll let you into a little insight. I said to him, we need to put our foot down, and the goal is that you don't go work for the new clinic. You go alone, you build your own thing. And to cut a long story short, we were able to achieve that. And we did that by using the simple methods that have applied to build Move over the last 5 years and that I'm now teaching my mentees. So I'm really looking forward to sharing his journey, hearing his insights, and hopefully there's lots that you can learn from that. If you are here and you are a business owner that's feeling stuck, frustrated, and that you've just got your head in the weeds and you've got no time to build a proper business, then the first link in my description down below is a free gift from me to you. It's a 7-day mini series that I deliver to you via email. Every single day is an actionable step that you can apply immediately to your business to help you move it to the next level. So go down there, hit the link. All I need is a name and an email address. But I do hope you enjoy the podcast, and there's lots to learn from it for you. Welcome, Luke. This is the first mentorship case study interview that I've done. There's a hint to things that are going to come out later this month. We're in June in terms of Future Physio, the collective, and I'll talk about that in a separate interview. But welcome, Luke. Luke is a sports physiotherapist based in London. You will pick up from his accent. He's got a lovely Irish accent. You'll pick that up. He's an Irish lad. And we'll dig into who Luke is and a little bit about his journey and his story of working with me on a one-to-one basis from a mentorship perspective and see what some of his biggest wins were, learnings were, and what the future holds. So welcome, Luke.
Thank you for having me.
It's a bit of a suck it and see with this. I think I've pressed record on everything, and I think the audio is okay. So I'm going to apologise in advance if there are any issues. But essentially today, Luke, what I want to do is just walk through a little bit of a timeline in terms of us working together. I'm going to try and use this whiteboard. But yeah, we sort of began working together on the 5th of February. That's when you officially joined the mentorship. One thing I'd be interested to know actually is how long it was sort of on your radar in terms of getting started or looking for some help in terms of growing your business and your brand.
Yeah, so I had started my online account presence probably 2 years prior to that, and I had just felt like things weren't really growing. And I couldn't really see the path out of the 9 to 5 per se. So I probably first reached out to you in like November of 25. And then, yeah, we went back and forth on WhatsApp a little bit. And then I got engaged. So I was like, this is probably not the best time to invest and take on a little bit more. So I laid low. And then, yeah, end of Jan, I suppose with 2026 hit, I was just like, I actually do want to make a change this year and not be back here in 2027. working for someone else really was my big thing. So yeah, got on a call with you. Things seemed pretty. Yeah, you just seemed, you made things seem pretty like straightforward, I suppose, and simple. Which in my head they were very complex. So got on a call with you and then signed up in the start of Feb.
Nice, nice. I think the straightforward and simple is the northern in me. It's the only way to be, I think. So,
Yeah.
you touched on there. Obviously, you didn't want to start 2027 in the same place that you were in 2026. I guess for context, where were you at the beginning of 2026? What was the starting situation?
So I had worked in the NHS for a few years, and I was a band six in MSK, and then I left the NHS because I thought I don't want to be here in 5 years' time. Like, I didn't really see myself just wanting to progress to band seven. I always knew I wanted to do my own thing, hence starting the page a lot earlier. And then I joined private in a private clinic in London in September of 2025 in the hope that that would be a bit different and give me, more job satisfaction, as well as learning a little bit more, which it did in some ways. But ultimately, if you, I I do believe that if you feel like you've got that sense of you want to go and do your own thing, or you've got a bit of a burning desire to do it, it doesn't really go away. So I didn't go away for me at all. Probably just got worse and worse. And I was like, this, the longer I'm here, the more unhappy I'm getting. It was very much just diary was rammed, and if it was rammed, people were happy. If it wasn't rammed, yeah, then they weren't happy, and it didn't really matter what I did with patients. So I got a bit sick of that and was looking for something new. And actually, when we first chatted, I had accepted a job elsewhere. So the original plan, I don't know if you remember, but the
I do,
original
yeah,
plan was for
I
me,
do.
yeah, to just start my new job. And I remember you saying to me, "Oh, we've got like 2 months now, 60 days. Like, let's see what we can do in that 2 months." And that was end of Feb. So then I had, well, start of Feb really. So I had like till end of March. I in my head. Otherwise, I was just going to a different job, which seemed appealing, but I knew deep down it was going to be more of the same, really.
Yeah, and I think it. I remember talking at the time, and it was, yes, the environment might be different, but you're still going to have the same frustrations, constraints in terms of how you want to work. You're still going to be sort of, I guess, bound by the constraints of um, a business owner. And I think from my experience now of helping a number of people in similar situations to you, not many of the businesses are maybe set up to allow a bit more balance, a bit more freedom, a bit more creativity. They're probably words that aren't associated with being a physio enough, but that's definitely something that running your own business allows. I think obviously even before we hit record, the two of us were sharing the things we were doing on Claude Code and how we were looking at developing our systems and services and tools that we can provide our clients. So I think it's a very common story. Obviously you had the rugby on the side as well.
Yeah.
So you play semi-pro. Obviously you've just been promoted to the championship, so congratulations on that.
Thank you, mate.
And I
Yeah, that was,
remember,
sorry to interrupt. I would say that was probably another thing that you may be about to say this, but that was the rugby side of things was something I wanted to give a bit more time to as well, because I've
yeah,
obviously got a limited period to use that. So that was another driver behind,
definitely.
like a more of a personal driver behind trying to do my own thing. And yeah, I feel like you got that quite early on because
Yeah.
you've worked in rugby and stuff, and you're from a sport background. So that was nice.
Yeah, no, I think from one of the things I was going to touch on is, and I remember the quote, I've got it written on this screen here, is like, you felt like you were stuck behind a comfort blanket in a way. Like you wanted to make the jump, but it was like, right, when's the right time to make the jump? You've got your clinic salary, you've got the semi-pro rugby, obviously topping up from a financial perspective a little bit. And then there was the side business, which you called it at the beginning, but it was obviously your online service, which we'll touch on in a second, that you were sort of slowly drip feeding in through your Instagram page. But I can't remember how I phrased it to you, but I remember being quite direct of like, as you mentioned, we've got 6, 8, 10 weeks. Let's see where we can get to.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the longer, now that I look back, and people listening to this, where we find that the longer in work you will, the blanket becomes more comfy, sort of,
100%.
the pay gets better, your lifestyle sort of increases. So on paper, it was a terrible time for me to go out on my own because I was like funding a wedding. I wasn't getting picked as much for my team at the time, so I lost that little bit of extra income. So, but it's never going to be a good time. Like people have kids or extra things,
100%.
and I think just chatting that through with you and realizing there's probably never going to be a good time. This is as good a time as any. Yeah,
Yeah.
and now we are few months down the line, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to touch on as well, obviously, you already had a little bit of like an online business, an online service. What did that look like? I know I've made some notes here, but from memory, but describe it in your own words.
Yeah, so it was mainly I started the online stuff. I did the first few guys for free, and obviously because I've got a rugby and strength and conditioning background, I did some S&C as well. But that started like before I met you as well. That started at like free or £50 a month,
Yeah.
just for programming, and that was really good just to get me set up on how do I onboard someone, how do I like keep someone on, how do I retain a client, how do I make sure that other people hear about their successes as well.
Yeah.
So my first long rehab was back when I was in the NHS, and I did that before work in the mornings, and it was like an ankle dislocation, and I did a 6-month rehab with him. And then I just documented a lot of that stuff for free. Spent some of my NHS lunch breaks just uploading posts and stuff. And then he was a uni rugby player. So then more and more boys from uni would just, that got injured would ask me, and an ACL came along, and I was like, I actually really enjoy this ACL process. And I'd been seeing quite a lot of them in the NHS. And and then I just started posting loads more ACL content. Before I knew it, then when I met you, I was like, this is my thing. I see rugby uni players who have ruptured their ACL, and you rightly like came back at me and maybe said like, are you sure this is your thing? You've only been doing it for a little bit or whatever. So that was really helpful. I got to the point where I was charging, on a 3 monthly basis. So I would charge £450 for 3 months, which at the time, on top of my salary, was quite nice because I would have, I got to the point where I maybe had like 8 clients on at one time. But then it just became unsustainable in terms of like I couldn't manage the clients, do my job well, and play rugby. So something had to give, and and also it felt like a lot of work for not that much money as well at the
Yeah,
time.
I think that's the key thing. I think the context is obviously you had a full-time job, you had the rugby commitments, but then you were delivering like a premium service and a high ticket service, but certainly not at the high ticket price point. And why do you think that was? Do you think it was a confidence thing? Do you think it was a comfort thing because you had the other revenue streams? Why do you think it was sort of that you'd stuck at that price point? Was it a limiting belief?
Yeah, definitely a limiting belief, and it's still a limiting belief for me. Like we can touch on my current prices, and that's most of the struggle I've had probably in the mentorship that we keep coming back to is pricing and limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
It's probably because I'm a younger physio as well, and I haven't been qualified as long. So in my head, I think, right, I just need to get people through the door. But actually, like we've talked about, for some of these guys, I was probably the best person. Well, I'm confident I was the best person for them because I knew exactly what they needed to go back to. I knew their schedule really well, and I know the demands of rugby. And then the more like CPD and stuff I did, the more I was like, I actually just know all this, and this is what I've been delivering anyway.
Yeah.
These guys are charging me like £1,000 to do the CPD course. So I think a lot of limiting beliefs. You're still stuck in the session per session mindset of clinic, and then it's even harder when you come from the NHS when you're given a similar, well, not a similar service, but you're giving out your expertise for free all the time.
Yeah.
So it's just hard to ask for more and more money. And then I was obviously dealing with a lot of uni students who money was the first thing they would say. I was like, oh, I'm waiting for my loan to come in, or I have to ask my parents or whatever. But
Yeah.
that happens all the time. So
I think that
Yeah,
that
but I
was
think
that was the big point. The big thing that I remember challenging with you is like, who is the person you're looking at? And I don't think it was wrong looking at those people. Like you say, you've it's a demographic you know inside out. But again, in
yeah,
terms of legs in the long term, particularly how you wanted to deliver, I did feel like it was limited.
yeah. Yeah, I don't regret it at all because it gives me like I've had so many calls now. I've heard a lot of the objections already, you know. So it's now a lot easier for well, I said it's easier for me to ask for higher prices. I still do struggle with it. Um but yeah, rep by rep will creep up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess like if we think back to 5th of Feb, early Feb, what do you feel like were your main bottlenecks in terms of taking the next step towards what you perceived as your dream outcome?
I just had no consistency, like no consistency of income, no consistency of lead flow. There was no like there was nothing I could hang my hat on and say this happens every month.
Yeah.
Um, my page wouldn't grow consistently either. I wasn't posting consistently. Yeah, I would say that the main word was there was no consistency. So I had some good months when I really went at it, and then some months where I earned like £300.
Yeah.
Um, whether that was someone just renewing for an S&C coaching block or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was my main bottleneck, I felt, and then time as well. I had like obviously I was working full time playing semi pro rugby as well. So I was working 30 hours a week, not full time, and I'm playing semi pro rugby. So that was taking up a lot of my time. So yeah, those are my two bottlenecks, time and consistency. And I suppose um yeah, like you've got down there, I pretty much had three jobs going on and I was
100%.
trying to do them all well and the 9 to 5 job was not going well, let's just say.
Yeah. And I guess that sort of leads on to the next question was, why was it the right time to join the mentorship? The first point I put in was sort of like notice handed in. But yeah, why did you feel it was the right time to join?
Because I wasn't happy in my 9 to 5 job for a multitude of reasons. The way they did things, and yeah, like I've touched on earlier. So it sort of come to a bit of a crescendo where me and the line manager were just not seeing eye to eye on things. So I decided to leave. Um, and I knew deep down like I wanted to do my own thing full time, but I was a bit scared. So hence I got the other job. But I suppose that belief I had like deep down to that I knew I wanted to do it was the reason I got on the call. And I had also made enough money from the online business that I knew it worked. Like I had a 2.6K month before I joined.
Yeah.
So I was like, that isn't far off from what I'm earning 9 to 5. So I know this works. And yeah, but then the next month would be like £100. So like I said, there wasn't much consistency. So I suppose I proved to myself, in summary, I proved to myself that it worked and I had the skills to make it work, but I just I wanted some guidance in that, I suppose.
Nice, nice. I remember it. I remember it really well, and like I remember saying to you, like there is the building blocks of something really great here, but it is just the systems and, like you said, the consistency is the big thing, and we'll touch on that, and especially when we come on to talk around some marketing and some sales bits.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think obviously you've come a long way already since then. And I remember we set three sort of big goals. The one that I wrote down ahead of the call was like 5K a month within 3 months, or within that sort of like time period to prove that you maybe didn't need to go into that next job. Um, what other big goals did you have coming into the mentorship?
Um, I
Or do you
suppose
do you remember them from the first discussion?
that was the main one. I was like,
Yeah,
the main one was to quit my job, I suppose,
yeah,
to be honest, and do my own thing and not work for someone else.
yeah,
So that sort of came under that in my head. If I made 5K, that would be enough to do it. Obviously, actually, we talked about, is that realistic? Could we earn less than that and do it?
yeah,
And the answer was yes. Like 5K was probably just a number I'd heard on TikTok or Instagram or
yeah,
something. So yeah. Other goals coming in. I could say off the top of my head, like grow the online following, but actually at the time I remember thinking that I had a few good months with barely like just about 1,000 followers. So I don't even think that was a big goal because I knew I could make it work from a little following, but I just wanted a bit more, yeah, direction, I would say.
Yeah, I have this conversation all the time with people around like following size and stuff like that. And obviously, 500,000 followers will probably be more profitable than 1,000 followers. But if 1% of your 1,000 followers came forward wanting help, could you handle 10 new clients there and then? Probably
Yeah.
not. So it's like, I do think there's a big mismatch in what people think there. The other two goals that we had down, I don't know if you remember this when I asked you what your dream outcome was. Number two was eventually move back to Ireland and build a high performance clinic. Is that
Yeah.
still something that's on the horizon? Maybe in the distant horizon, but
Distant horizon, yeah, potentially.
yeah.
Potentially. I play around with that all the time.
We'll
Whether
put
I
high
will
performance
open.
clinic, then we don't have to commit to a location then.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the other one was, and I think this is probably the most meaningful, it was personal one. So you wanted to train like an athlete, have freedom, work 4 days a week, holidays without financial guilt, and then be able to support a future or a wife and then a future family.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't remember saying that, but I agree
Yeah.
with all those points.
Claude pulled it from the transcript from me, so for me, so it was said. But I think again, I guess that's the reason you wanted to build that especially the online service, and then what became a hybrid service. It was to have the freedom to be your own boss, dictate when you work, where you work, and what your life looks like, which is the main thing. We don't do the business for the business; we do the business for our life, don't we? So.
Yeah, 100%.
I think it's a very, very meaningful goal. So then we came on to sort of like a couple of weeks in, we'd established some foundations in terms of like what your ideal week looked like, what your vision looked like, what your values looked like. And it then became around sort of like product development. And as you touched on earlier, you wanted to sort of go deep on the ACL side of things. And when I sort of spoke it through with you, we spoke about 4 different elements in terms of like what problem do we solve, what promise do we give to someone as part of our service, who are the people we want to work with, and what does the process look like. So, I guess where have you got to now with your service or services in terms of like what problem do you solve? Have you niched or have you gone a bit more broad and you help people with pain, whatever the injury?
Yeah. It's worth mentioning, which we haven't mentioned yet. I also see people in person as well now,
Yeah.
which you really probed me to do. So that's like we've only talked about the online side of things, but which is which has been 2/3 of my income since I've went full time out by myself. But a third of my income is still seeing people in person. So for the in person people, the problem's a little bit different. It's everyday gym goers, runners, etc., and that might be pain, tried everything else, tried to push through it. Nothing's changing. For my online clients, it's pretty much exclusively knee injuries, although I am open to ankles and shoulders.
Yeah.
Um, but pretty much post-op knees who are looking to get back to contact sport. And yeah, that's who I feel like I serve best.
Nice.
And yeah, it's been working so far.
Nice. And I think obviously, I guess this is an opportunity to get yourself some followers if people do listen to this. What is your Instagram handle?
At Luke Pollock online.
Yeah. So I think if you go onto Luke's page, you will see the primary thing that he speaks about is ACLs,
Yeah.
knees in general, around contact sports. So I think it's very obvious, and the benefit of sort of being clear on who you like helping, who you've got the skill set to help, particularly in that online world, is really useful. And I guess if you want to split it again in person, online, if you want to just go in general, what promise do you make to people that come into work with Luke Pollock?
Yeah, in person, I normally will sell like a block of sessions,
Mm-hmm.
because it's difficult to get results session by session, I find. So, whatever the problem is, I will determine the length of the block. So, most recently, back problems, 6 sessions, and I will say by the end of those 6 sessions, if you're not feeling a lot better, then we'll keep going until you do, pretty much.
Nice.
But by about session 3 or 4, to be honest, by session 2, they're normally noticing the changes and the difference. So
Nice.
yeah, and then online, just got the standard money back guarantee. If you know, after the onboarding, if you find that you're uncomfortable with something or it's not what you expected, then you can have your money back within 2 weeks. Um, the other promise I have online is dependent on the stage as well. But say you're coming as a fresh ACL, it's quite a standard case for me. I'll say I'll get you back in 9 months, and if I don't, we'll keep working for free until we do.
Nice.
And that's obviously depending on if they hit the amount of sessions, etc. There has to
Yeah.
be some accountability on
It
the
does,
client's
yeah.
part.
And I guess the other thing that I maybe wanted to touch on with that point is like for us at Move, one of the things that we'll promise is that you'll not just go back pitting free, you'll go back performing at a much higher level because of the way that we integrate S&C and all things like that. I presume it's similar for yourself.
Yeah. Sorry, just say that again. I completely
So
just
like
like.
in terms of the promise that we look at making at Move, it's because we do the combination of like, or we do performance-based rehab and they integrate the S&C into it. It's not just a fix pain problem. It's a get back better than you were before.
Yeah, 100%. Sorry, I just completely blanked when you were
That's all
asking that
good.
question.
It's all good.
So for my online ACLers, I'll take control of their full week, which is it's quite nice. They've got an S&C interest and background, so I'll do their upper body, their off feet conditioning, their return to play conditioning as well.
Yes.
And then in person, because I work quite closely with the gym, I will like talk to the gym owner, tailor their whatever they're doing in the class at Train Yard in London, so they can stay in their classes, so they're not having to like take this big time away from getting fit, and we just work around it. And overall, yeah, it's been really good to have that rounded approach rather than just I feel as sometimes as rehab practitioners we can just pile more on top of the client and give them like loads of homework to do and make them feel guilty if they don't do it, rather than trying to have an understanding of like what their life looks like and trying to work around that, work into it. And that's how I've managed to get the best results, really.
Nice. I think that it almost jumps forward into process and leads nicely. So when you work with someone now, you take full control of everything, do you?
Online, yeah.
Yeah. And have you managed to get anyone in person onto your coaching service?
Yeah, it's happening both ways now. So like
Mm.
I had a call
Good.
on Friday. Had a call on Friday with a pretty complex case, which I'd like to talk to you about. Who wants to do hybrid? So he works abroad a lot, but is based in London. So yeah, for him, we'll set up a hybrid program where I see him probably once a month, and then he follows the program for the rest of the time. Um, yeah, and that would be my ideal scenario. You know, if everyone could see me hybrid, it'd be class because you get to build that in-person relationship. But it's just not everyone lives in London, unfortunately.
No, but I think the thing that you will find is that as your brand and or your personal brand and the clinic's brand grows, people will travel. And I think again, it comes back to consistency of like just showing up over and over again and becoming more known and becoming liked within those circles. People will travel, and I agree. I think, and that was one of the reasons I encourage you to tick over and do some in-house things, because that the hybrid option is the best option, especially when you integrate the Valve tech into it and you can test people and you can provide that objective data alongside a really comprehensive plan where you have full control and it's specific to that individual. I think it's
Yeah.
the gold standard, really. Where are you at in terms of person now? Obviously, you started with uni students. That certainly won't be the demographic that you're working with in person, I imagine, but
No.
online as well. Where are you at?
So yeah, I still do have some uni students on, which who I really enjoy working with,
Nice.
just because I know them well and I've been there not that long ago. So yeah, I still have a few of those on, and then it ranges pretty much just anyone who's in their between 20 and 40 who've ruptured their ACL. Like I have a 37-year-old who went in for an op yesterday, but he still wants to get back to rugby. Like, so, yeah, I would say my average person is between 20 and 40, male and working a job now, but still has that goal of returning to sport. So yeah, I've got clients abroad now as well. So I've
Nice.
picked up a guy from Croatia. Yeah, it's crazy as the page grows how you start to. It was like I only ever saw people in Cardiff, and now I've got clients in Croatia, which I wouldn't have imagined would have happened a few months ago.
I think that allows me to write worldwide down. We can go
Yeah,
worldwide client
nearly.
base. Yeah.
Yeah,
100%, 100%. No, that's awesome, mate. I think in terms of how it's evolved and matured already, I'm really excited to see where it would be in 12 months' time. So it's a testament to the work you've already done. And then if we touch on marketing, I think this would be a really nice one to talk about because you do something very different to anyone else in the mentorship. But yeah, in terms of marketing, what are your primary platforms?
Instagram
Yeah,
is my primary platform. I need to get better at like going on just uploading on TikTok and stuff as well. But yeah, Instagram.
yeah. And then the longer form platform, I know it's maybe not directed at clients, but you've got your own podcast as well, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I got my own podcast, and that's something that yeah, like we mentioned at the start, is started out of more of like a creative pursuit, I suppose. And like we said, the 9 to 5 doesn't really, or the standard 9 to 5 doesn't really offer solutions to that, like creativity, or I want to try something a bit different. And I remember you quizzing me on like what's the thinking behind the podcast, because it was taking up a lot of my time at the time, and I was getting guests up and I was sharing clips, and we went back and forth on that, which was actually really helpful for me, because I maybe stopped looking to like prop other people up on my own page all the time, and actually show that I know what I'm talking about as well. So the podcast is like long form, um, a long form thing where I feel like I can get my point across more clearly, compared to short form where it's very, there's no time to explain the nuance in different things. And yeah, and also I just think it's really important to get to be able to convey your message. And if you can do that on a 30-minute to an hour long podcast, you're going to be able to do that on a 30-second or 1 minute reel much better.
100%. I think, like you touched on, obviously, we went back and forth on it because the content, especially on your page, was great, but then like the long form was great. But then some of the clips you were sharing, it was like a really high value piece of content, but it was someone else saying it, when it was
Yeah,
probably part of the discussion where you were saying it as well, but that you were
yeah,
almost positioning them as the expert in the discussion. And if you were dragging people to your page, you were then probably sending them to that person to ask for help.
yeah, yeah,
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially it's important that you do things that you enjoy. But yeah, I think just that small shift in terms of making yourself the star of the show as well as other people is really
yeah,
important.
yeah, exactly.
I'm interested. Have you had any clients that have joined who have said they've listened to any of the episodes?
Not because they've listened to the episodes, not yet, to
Have
be
they
honest.
referenced listening to it though?
Yeah. I've had
Mm.
people on calls being like, because I've done a similar thing that we're doing right now with one of my clients who came back in really good time from ACL. We jumped on a call or on a podcast and did that. And then I've actually got a lot from other physios, a lot of messages from other physios, especially uni students,
Yeah.
which has been really cool. Just following along the journey of the podcast. So I think that's the main person who listens to my podcast at the minute. But yeah, it's nice to be able to, if someone's not sure about what it entails or anything, I can just send them a link to a 30-minute podcast to listen to. And it builds a little bit more trust as well, you know? I think if someone
100%.
goes on your page and they can see you're not just like someone putting clips together, you're a real person, you like have opinions on things, you know where you stand on certain things. I think it's attractive. But yeah,
No, I
I
think
think
it's
that
great,
answers
mate.
your question.
I think it's great for two reasons. Obviously, you touched on that some maybe like physio students or more junior physios are listening to it. And one thing I didn't realize until I was maybe like 2 years into business was the value of that. Because who knows, in 18 months' time, 2 years' time, you're like, right, the clinic's going really well. I need to bring someone on. You have a captive audience of people who have followed your journey, and you've built so much trust, and they buy into what you stand for, they buy into your value, they buy into your visions. The minute you put an advert out there for a job, you're going to get someone that is likely going to be a fantastic fit. And I
Yeah.
think like that's one huge reason to continue it. And then like you touched on there in terms of like the case study style thing you've done with the ACL, it's the time on brand piece. And I wrote obviously time on brand down as you were chatting there. And it's just sort of to reference the future physio flywheel, which I've recently introduced into the mentorship. It's like, especially the alignment piece and becoming liked and becoming trusted. It's such a, like an S tier player, if we're going to use the ranking systems that are popular on social media. It for me, it's the number one player that's going to build
Yeah.
trust and get people to buy into you and your services.
Yeah. I have, like, some of those things you hear and they just stick. For me, that was like when building content and a brand, like you said, that aligns with someone. You want to create like a binge bank for them. So if they
100%.
find you and really like you, they can go through all your short form stuff and they think, oh, he's got some long form stuff. Like, I want to listen to an Alex Morel podcast. Then I want to listen to another one, and then I want to listen to them every week. And you'll have people like sitting on the sidelines for ages, just binging all your stuff, and you won't ever know until they come along and hopefully pay some money.
100%, 100%. And then just to touch on obviously short form and Instagram, your page has grown recently so obviously you were around 1,000 when we started working together. Where are you now? How
Yeah,
many
so I was
followers?
about 1.4 when we started working together. I'm like 4.4 now, so probably
Nice.
3k increase in the last 3 months. But it's important to to note that 1.4 took me like 2 years to get to.
Nice.
Um, so yeah, and I think that's a skill thing as well, right? So that's not just Alex told me to post this and I got 2,000 followers
100%.
over the last 2 years of sort of being like finding what works well, what doesn't, and then just having someone to bounce ideas off. And then I found something that's been working and just riding that wave. And like you just get the feeling when you know it's going well. So yeah, I feel
Momentum.
like the page is gonna keep growing beyond that now. Like that's
100%.
sort of been my focus over the last this month and last month. So hoping to just race to 10k now, just because it's growing quickly and it just begins to snowball then.
100%. I firmly believe that the it's sort of like short form or particularly Instagram algorithm and environment has significantly shifted. It's like there's far less like viral content, but there is just content that lasts the test of time. I know
Yeah.
personally, I've got 2 or 3 videos that have hit like 100k plus views and 1,000 plus followers, and they still just bring people in even now. And I think, obviously, you've grown by about 3,000, but I think that's from 2 or 3 posts really that you'd attribute that to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And it was a nice collection of, you know, I've hit the post at a nice time each time. If you go on my page, you'll probably see like I've done different ones where like when Arsenal were coming into the Champions League final, I did um a
Timber.
post on their right back, Timber on their right back, just to see like because he had a previous ACL, and just to try and time it right. And I've just been playing on that more and more. Um, so yeah, it's been going well. And like we said earlier, although you can build a business off a smaller following, and I think you definitely can. It is it's also much easier when you have a bit of a larger following, but you have to know what to do with the following. You can't
100%.
just
You've
yeah
got to, and again, I guess it links back to that the flywheel I mentioned. The big mistake that people make, regardless of how many followers that they have, is they don't give people the opportunity to take an action, and they don't make enough offers.
yeah
And that's obviously something that we worked
on quite a lot in terms of how you use your stories and how you interact and engage with your following, rather than just going, here's a post, do something with it. Here's a post, do something with it. It does need nurturing.
Yeah.
But I think obviously you've lent into like the commentary based content. You've jumped on other people's profiles. You've become an authority because you're perceived as an expert linked with a professional athlete, albeit you've never spoken to them or probably been in the same room as them. It's
Yeah.
just a fantastic method, and it's something that's worked really well for me, and it's great to see it working well for you. Let's sort of link making offers, taking action, and some of the experiences you've had around like selling. Obviously, you touched on that earlier. How have you found? I actually had this written down as sales skills earlier. And how have you found selling over the last 3 or 4 months?
Yeah, like that's probably the part I've struggled with a little bit more. Coming into it, I thought I had the sales down. I was like, no, that's not a problem for me. But no, I realized it's just because I was offering a stupidly cheap price. So people were like, yeah, so people were just biting my hand off for it. But yeah, it's. I think sales is it's such a skill. And it's also, you could really get in a flywheel of like beating yourself up about it if you feel like you dropped the ball or messed up. But it's a fine art between, some people are just not going to be right for you and they were never going to sign on with you, no matter what you say. Other people are genuinely on the fence, and it does matter what you discuss and what you talk about on the call. And then there's some people, like I've had a guy 2 weeks ago that I was like, no, you don't need to say anything more. I've been recommended you. You're my guy. Let's go. And then it's just super easy. So it's for those people in the middle that I've struggled with a little bit. And when I feel like, oh, maybe I'm a bit more nervous, then I've just gone for that lower price point. So we can get into the numbers. Like I've been charging a lot of people at £600 for 3 months at the minute, and much to your frustration, because the service is definitely worth more than that.
100%.
But in my head, I've just been trying to build up my clients. So yeah, it's just trying to break my own limiting belief and having confidence and saying, okay, actually, it's going to be this price for 3 months, and if they take it, they take it. If they don't, they don't.
Yeah, I think sales is such an interesting thing, particularly in healthcare, to talk about, because in the UK, obviously, you get the NHS, as you touched on earlier. You're delivering something for free there, and then it's like, I'm now delivering it and I'm asking for hundreds, if not thousands of pounds. There is the mindset shift. But ultimately, I think from my perspective, I've got to the point where I can't put a value on what other people perceive the value of their health. I will just judge it based off market response. Yes, you can communicate to people in better ways, and your marketing should take care of a lot of the things that you would have to speak about in the sales process. And I think you're getting to that point. Like the client you referenced that was like, yeah, I'm just ready to start. They've probably been recommended you. They've come onto your page. They've seen that you know what you're talking about. They've maybe listened to a little bit of long form content, and they've gone, right, this is a safe bet. I'm happy to pay. Let's go. And I think the thing that I would encourage you to do forever is like to step into being the authority. I think you speak so well. You speak so concisely. It's actually like when you've got to attach a number to the end of a conversation, it's still stepping into being the authority and telling people what you recommend, telling people what they need to do, rather than, I used a quote there because obviously we ran some sales analysis. I used a quote of one of your clients said, I'd probably like the 3 months, but it's like, they're not even sure what they should be doing because you've not guided them to say, right, this is how you fix your problem.
Yeah. And that's so much easier in person. I've found, like, I've no problem selling packages in person.
That's really interesting, because you think the close proximity of the person and the feeling, the energy of the reaction when you discuss the money would flip it the other way.
Yeah, I think I'm very like, although I'm coming across quite serious in this podcast, maybe, like, I like making jokes. I like making people feel at ease. So by the time I'm discussing that with someone in person, and I've got such limited in-person slots as well, I'm like, listen, this is what it is. If you want to be someone who takes my slots, then you can. For his online,
If
I've got
you
this.
charge enough, you could have a more limited amount of slots
Yeah,
online,
yeah,
and then make the same amount of money and have more time to focus on the rugby and the other things. So it
yeah.
swings in roundabouts, doesn't it?
It definitely does.
I think you can see
Yeah,
my frustration coming out in that, but
yeah, yeah,
I think you're ready to go to the next level. And I think obviously I just noted there in terms of like the 3 key pain point questions that we discussed a number of times in our chat. It was like, right, how bad has it got? What have you tried? And what is it stopping you from doing? Those 3 questions allow you to, one, stretch the gap from where someone is now to where they want to be and what their dream outcome is. But it gives you ample opportunity to again, be the authority and be the expert, because you can essentially tell people what's gone wrong in the past and what they need to do to fix it.
yeah.
How have you found that? Obviously, over the last few weeks, how's the sales calls gone?
Yeah, better. I think it helps when you have the cushion. You've created your own sort of comfort cushion, and you know you don't need them as much.
Yeah,
Like those earlier sales calls, I needed them. So hence that, and the client can feel that if you feel like you need them to come on with you a little bit, and I did, right, because I quit my job, so I was like,
yeah,
um but now I've got like to the point where I've got, just last maybe 9 clients on, so I know if I do nothing this month and just make sure I service all them, I'll be fine and see my in-person clients. So I'm at that point where I wanted to be. Where now there's no excuse really to up the price. So yeah, it's got easier as I've got more consistency and comfort on. And like we're talking, like I've been doing this for years. I literally quit my job end of March, and it's only 1st of June. So like there's been 2 months where I properly went at it and built up to 8 or 9. I think I'm on eight clients. So
nice.
yeah,
And how much of that is recurring? How many of those clients?
they're all recurring. So
Nice.
they're all,
Yeah,
yeah, no one has paid me for like a one-off fee, and it's either monthly or 3 monthly. So they're all recurring. So, and like, the thing is, once I get people on, I know they don't like, I've had maybe one person leave,
yeah,
through financial reasons, but normally they don't leave, because they see the results are coming. And if they don't come, I try and find a solution for them. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So you can finally go on holiday guilt-free without seeing your income fully drop.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Just have to plan a little bit more before you go, but yeah.
Exactly. So we went into March, the leap happened, and the clinic opened, fully self-employed. Does the clinic have a name?
It doesn't have a name now.
Nameless clinic. There we go.
Despite I still operate under Luke Pollock Online, which is funny because needs a name.
Like needs a name.
Yeah,
It does.
because I don't want to. Yeah, I've wanted to just build up the online stuff so aggressively, and I haven't wanted to take my focus off that really, and that has been working so far. So the name will come.
It will. It will. I'm a big believer in like a business needs a name because you don't want it to always be Luke Pollock. Because
Yeah,
if you're called Luke Pollock Online or if you're called Luke Pollock Rehab, everyone that comes into your business ecosystem, whether it's a hybrid option, online, in person, whatever it is, they want to see Luke Pollock. They don't want to see Alex Morel. Who's Alex Morel? Like, why does he
yeah,
work for Luke Pollock? Like, I want to see the main man. And obviously, another opportunity arose, part time.
yeah. That's with a retail performance. So there are guys who I would like see myself aligning with very much, in terms of a rehab perspective and in S&C things and how they do things. So I approached them actually just to see if I could work with them, and they offered me 2 days self-employed with them, and it was just, if we have people for you to see, we'll supply them. And that really helped me take the leap in terms of, okay, I've got a little bit of security. Now, as it's worked out, I haven't had loads of clients to see through them, but it's been fine because I've been really busy with my own stuff. But it's just nice to still have a community and people to learn from, people to bounce ideas off.
I think
And
the
it's nice to
recognition's
go,
great.
yeah, and it's
They're a
not,
big name in the S&C and the performance world, aren't they? So
yeah, and like they work with, yeah, professional footballers, professional rugby players. So just get an insight into how they do things. And it's nice to go into work some days as well, not be like online's great, but it is a lot of time stuck on the laptop. So it's nice to have that.
Nice. And then focusing on, before we come on to sort of the online side of things, which we've spoken a bit about, the in-person clinic, how were you feeling the first day you walked into your new clinic in the High Rocks gym?
uh, yeah, a bit, I suppose, working for a private clinic myself gave me a little bit more confidence, but yeah, I was a bit nervous because I think my first client was someone I knew, and then the next client was like a free initial consultation.
Yeah.
And you had told me to advised me like try and see if we can sell them on a package, and I did that like first person, and she was just like looked at me blankly because I've just asked for £600 pretty much for a
Yeah.
few sessions. She's looked at me blankly and be like, "Can I go home and think about it?"
Yeah.
And I went home and I was like, "Oh, that was a bit of a nightmare." But then she emailed me and be like, "Yeah, I'm happy to go for it." And I was like, "Oh, this works," And now she's back running, pretty much pain free. So it does work, and yeah, I think I went for it. The pressure of needing to make it work really, really helped me, and it will always help me. If I have time or I'm comfortable, I won't push as much. So, yeah,
I think I think it's really important to touch on that point there of like, if you have time, if you're comfortable, it's like I've had periods in building Move where it's felt like that, and that I think that's one reason anyone that I work with, and even myself, it's like, how can I keep expanding the vision? What's next? What's the next goal? Whether that's getting more time back, whether that's increasing revenue, whatever that looks like, it's like, okay, like let's just not rest on our laurels. And I think the whole corny saying of pressure is a privilege, I do think it is,
yeah,
but it does elicit action at the end of the day.
it does. Yeah, yeah, 100%.
What's working well in the clinic?
The packages are working really well for me and for the clients.
Yeah.
So I'll sell like a package deal for a slight discount as per session, and having firm price points as well is working well.
Nice.
I have obviously being in London in rugby circles, you have people being like, "Oh, can you see my this or that?" Like my friend or my girlfriend, and it's just having firm price points and being like, "This is if I have a friends and family discount, this is it," and
Yeah.
that is it. But yeah, the packages are working really well because like in person, I can have maybe like four people on a package, and I
Yeah.
just see them every week, and we build a really good rapport. We don't have to talk about, oh, so about next session. It's just, okay, when can you next come in? We just do it straight away because they've already paid. If they miss a session, there's no pressure on me either. So that's been working really well, and that's where I want to take literally everyone I see in person. I want them to be in some sort of package if it fits for the problem. If it's a short-term issue, I'm not going to sign them up for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, it's again, it's like a lot of people don't like packages and things like that. It does have to be ethical at the end of at the end of the day, and if it's the best thing for the person, that's what gets recommended, rather than oh, this is the best thing for my business to increase cash flow and bring this money in, even though it's right for the person. And then in terms of testing, like, have you got any tech in clinic? What are you doing? How are you
No,
integrating
so
that?
that is something I need to integrate, which I haven't really integrated. So I've just been using like standard physical capacity tests at the minute. That's sort of the next step, I suppose. Well, one of the many next steps is, yeah, is the tech side of things. Obviously, if there's anyone that I feel will really benefit from it, some of my ACLers that I see in person, then can suggest they go over to a retail with me where we have all the valid equipment, and those guys will do a full physical profiling. But in my own gym that I work out of, not my gym, but the gym that I work out of, I don't have any tech that I use at the minute. So that's something I need to do. But it's nice to have the option to send to a retail when you've got the gut feeling that they need it.
Definitely, definitely. And is there anything that, obviously it's only been a couple of months, but is there anything that you started with that you stopped?
Um, Trying to think off the top of my head. In terms of testing, or in terms of
Well, just
just
in terms of like processes, in terms of how you set up the clinic, in terms of like workflows. Yeah, it might be too early days.
Yeah, it's still early days. I think something I've been intentional with from the start is keeping my working hours to my working hours. So
Yeah.
I only work in that gym on a Tuesday and Thursday. And like some weeks I will literally see 4 people or 5 people in person in a week,
Yeah.
which is barely anything compared to what I was seeing. And I often have people saying, "Oh, do you do a Friday or a Monday or a Wednesday?" But like, as crazy as it sounds, Wednesday are my like creating day where I will do a podcast and create content. So although that might be 100, £200 that I'm losing out on, like I have to think about the longer term brand. So yeah, I've been quite intentional with protecting my time around the clinic, and when I work, and try not to fall into the trap of trying to see people at random times of the week, because it's really hard for me to switch from one thing to the next. So if I'm treating, I like to be treating for a little bit rather than I'm treating, now I'm creating a piece of content. And yeah,
100%.
obviously sometimes you do have to be flexible, but yeah.
No, I think you're doing exactly what you need to do. And obviously, when we first worked together, one of them foundational exercises is, what does your ideal week look like? And that's really important, because it means that you put your energy, or you have the prime amount of energy to put it into the most optimal returning tasks. And for you, content is one of those, particularly being an online business. So, and I
Yeah.
think people are too fearful of like, I need to be flexible because they will go somewhere else. There's 70 million people in this country. There's enough people that'll fill the times that you want to work. You just need to find them through different marketing channels and whatever that looks like.
Yeah, and I also think it's thinking about like leverage, like what's the highest leverage thing for me to be doing at any one point. And more often than not, it's not seeing someone or chasing a client around. It's actually, can I create a business that was going to continue to serve me in the future? And it's kind of hard when you only see yourself as a physio, but there's so many more opportunities that will come if you have a bit more of like a brand, like you yourself are saying now, like you're able to teach other physios how to grow an online business. You might not have thought that would have been the case like 4 years ago. Um, so yeah, it's what builds leverage for me in the future, not just like what gives me money right here, right now.
100%. That leads lovely on to the leverage trap. So in April, we discussed about like,
Oh wow, I didn't I didn't see
I don't
that.
think you'd seen that yet.
No, I
In
hadn't.
April, we had a conversation about like a bit of frustration around building the online, and it was a discussion around like, let's just keep doing the reps and keep refining the systems, and as well as the in-person growth. And I think like the reason I wrote the leverage trap on this is because I feel you're starting to get out of like the initial trap. And what I mean by leverage trap is like, you accumulate enough goodwill in the marketplace that people start coming to you ready to work with you, rather than it being a real graft to outbound them, to create conversations in the DMs, to convince them to jump on a call with you, to then hard sell them. And like, you're now getting people who are recognizing you and aligning with you, because you have this flywheel going of like, you can attract people. You've grown by 3,000. You can get the people to align to you with the content type that you're doing, and the longer form content. You're getting them ready to take action, like the guy you said who turned up and it was like, right, I'm ready to work with you. And I think
Yeah,
you seeing yourself coming out of the leverage trap now,
yeah.
or at least poking your head up the top of the parapet, which is really good to see.
Yeah.
What do you see working well online at the moment for you in terms of
Um,
the online arm of the business?
the yeah, the really taking a focus into the quality of my content has helped a
Yeah.
lot. So before, and I think it used to be the case with Instagram that if you put anything up, as long as you posted regularly, it would gain a little bit of traction. But I've had periods where I was trying to grow the page of posting every day and nothing would happen. But now I will spend like 4 hours, and some of those reels take me 4 or 5 hours to do.
Yeah.
Which some people listening would be like, well, I would never have time to do that. But you can do it over a week. And if you make one banger of a reel, it will have so much more such a bigger impact. And now I know I'm very specific with like the wording and um, how I come across in those reels. And it's just really, really crazy to see how well that has worked for me, whether
It's
that's
going
following or collecting emails or, yeah.
100%. It blew my mind when I first did the James Madison one and it just went stupid. It was like, this works.
Yeah.
It just works. And it's awesome. And then anything else in terms of like the service, the products, what's working well?
I think putting more time into actually developing my online service as well. So for the longest time, I had been pulling exercise videos, clips from YouTube and stuff for my clients, but now I'm trying to video all my exercises myself, which is obviously more time consuming, but it just gives me that belief of when I'm on a sales call that like I really believe that you will feel like this is a premium experience now. And building out the education side for my online clients as well, and just making it like a more of a one-stop shop where they feel that I've covered everything rather than here's a YouTube clip of someone doing the exercise I'm talking about. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still building that out, but
You always will, mate. We still
yeah,
are 5 years later.
yeah, exactly. So that's just try to make it as a quality while trying to bringing other people on. It just makes the whole sales process easier. And then also being very reluctant to jump on a sales call with someone unless they are interested. I've really cut down on, let's just jump on a call. What have I stopped? I've stopped jumping on calls with anyone who inquires because you realize that people are just interested and want to know how much you charge just for the sake of it.
So
So,
do you tell people now before you go on a call?
yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
So I will, depending on the situation, like my reels for some reason are popping off in India. So I'll get like a lot of inquiries from Indian phone numbers. So
Yeah.
for those guys, just because of the conversion rate, I'm like, it's going to be expensive for you.
Yeah.
So I'll just pre-qualify them with prices. For someone else who is just genuinely like, I'm just looking for a new physio, how much do you charge? I'll just send it across. Now I used to be like, oh, well, let's get on a call.
Yeah.
But I just don't have time to do that anymore.
100%. Again, it's like there's not many things that you wouldn't. It's the whole James Smith thing. Obviously, he bangs on about like not hiding prices, not doing sales calls and things like that. And I do think sales calls is the way to go, particularly as a physio, because
Yeah.
you obviously have to screen for certain red flags and bits and pieces like that. But I think like not wasting your time jumping on a call to tell someone it's, even if it's £600 and they're like, oh, that's way above what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be £50 a month or something like that. I think it's just not a use of your time. What?
There's definitely a happy medium. I think you're right. As a physio, like it's a relationship business, right? So it's unless we're going to have 100 ACLs on, which I never plan to do,
Unless
I
you've got a
want
big
it to,
team.
yeah, I want it to be quite tight and personal. So yeah,
Definitely. What's next for the online business? What are you working on? What cool things are you doing? What's the goals?
I'm trying to sound quite techy now, but I'm trying to build out the back end of stuff a little bit more so the service is better and I keep less things in my head. So I'm using Claude Code a lot to build different dashboards and etc. And then try and automate more things. So whether that is just to take more load off me. So when I onboard someone, it just happens rather than me having to record a new loom, etc., etc.
Definitely.
In terms of like, are you wanting big picture now?
Whatever you want, mate. We've got some wrap-up questions which are a little bit more big picture, but if it's relevant, it's relevant.
Yeah, we'll leave them to the end. I'm not 100% sure what I'll say, but we'll see what comes to my head.
Let's jump to now then. So if in 12 months' time we were sat having a beer, even if it was virtual, and we were celebrating one thing, what would it be?
One thing probably would be that I had had hit a following and an income metric that I didn't have to worry month on month or think in the mindset of month on month, if that makes sense. So maybe like let me rephrase that. One thing is difficult. Yeah, probably would be a revenue metric. I feel like that's the biggest thing for me.
Okay. You're going to put it out there into the
World.
atmosphere.
Probably a 10K month would feel pretty big, and I don't know why that is the case, but I do think like the way I'm going, I should hit that within 12 months. So I think that's also realistic. And I know you said a dream big, but that's always been
that is big. That is
yeah,
big.
it is
like,
big.
Yeah, 100%. I don't underplay that. Like, obviously, it was only 2 months ago you wanted to hit 5K, and already your vision's gone from 5 to 10. And I believe it's very achievable. I think, definitely. In terms of working together from a mentorship perspective, what is your biggest takeaway, or what are your biggest takeaways?
Yeah, it was so helpful for me just to have like someone to give you that little push or nudge. And sometimes it's not exactly what you want to hear, but that is like the best advice you can hear sometimes, you know? Yeah, just someone to bounce ideas off, to know if you're going down the right direction. And ultimately someone to challenge you as well. Like it's very easy when you're in a one person business just to think, oh, this is the way I do things. It's the only way to do things. So I can only charge £450 to uni students. It wasn't until I had someone be like yourself say to me, well, is this the best option? And then you can really go away and question that. And that is so helpful because you've just saved me 6 months to a year of finding that out the hard way myself, you know? And the way I've sold this to myself time and time again is like you're just 5 to 10 years down the line from what I wanted to do, so I can just like avoid some of the mistakes you fell into. And like I've seen
It's so interesting that you said that. Like, someone jumped on a call with me recently and they were like, oh, I want to sign up because I feel like you're just a couple of steps ahead of where I want to be. And about a month prior to that, I realized I was always like, right, what am I going to build this mentorship to exactly look like? Obviously, you came in when it was a bit more of like a beta cohort for me to understand how best to help people. And I was like, I'm just going to build it for me 5 years ago.
Yeah. And that's the most helpful point of view to come from, you know, when someone's just a few steps ahead and then you can avoid the mistakes they felt, and it allows you to go through the process quicker. So now I'm thinking about a 10K month, which is crazy because 2 months ago I was working a 9 to 5 job where like no one makes 10 grand, you know, I mean, no one makes that in a 9 to 5 job. So, yeah, it just allows you to go so much faster. And I think you've been good as well at like kind of letting, like, it's not a one size fits all approach and kind of letting me do my thing when I've been like, oh, no, I want to do a podcast, even though it takes up a portion of my week and I want to make this sort of content. You've been like, mate, if that works for you, let's do it. But here's how I think you can do it a little bit smarter or lean into it a little bit better.
Again, like as I'm building out more of the mentorship, one of the modules in the education hub is your business, your rules. Like, you've got to enjoy it at the end of the day. You've got to do it for your reasons, not do it as Alex says and be a complete replica of him, because it just, you resent it in the end in one way or another.
Yeah.
Last question. What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of taking the leap, 100%, taking the leap, going from like comfort in what perceives to be like a bad time to do that. And like, there's no way I'm now going to go back to like a 9 to 5 job, you know, unless it was the right opportunity. But like I was in before, I just don't see myself ever going back there because now I've got the skills and I know how to make things work online if I need to, or in person if I need to. So, yeah, taking the leap is what I'm most proud of. Yeah.
Nice. It's a perfect way to wrap it up, mate. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate jumping on the first ever case study, and hopefully everything is recorded. Hopefully everything is good to go from a visual and an audio perspective. But we'll find out when we press stop. I guess if someone wanted to follow your journey, the best place is Instagram. Is it Luke Pollock Rehab or Luke Pollock Online?
Luke Pollock Online, yeah.
No.
And then the podcast is The Uplift as well.
Luke Pollock Online, and it's just on all, and what's it called? Spotify, YouTube, everything.
Yeah.
Top man. Right, appreciate your time, Luke, and
Thanks very
I'm
much
excited to see what's to come.
So I think you can agree that Luke should be very proud. I'm certainly very proud to have played a small part in his journey and guiding him to where he is now. And I'm excited to see what he achieves again in the future. So do make sure you check him out. Make sure you have a chat with him. He's got a podcast as well. I'm going on it in the next couple of weeks, which I'm looking forward to. But just to remind you, head down to the description. I've got a free gift for you that's going to teach you over 7 days, 7 different principles to apply immediately into your business that is going to take it to the next level.